Welcome to another edition of A2NewTech. I'm your host, Hein, like the ketchup without the Z. For those who don't know me, I co-own Huck Finch, a branding and web development studio based in Ipsy in the non-pandemic world, but really it's just based in my home and typically in my walk-in closet where I hold all my meetings. For first-timers, welcome to our meetup. We appreciate having you here. For all the old-timers, thank you for your continued support. For those who are new, what we'd like to do at the beginning of this is just start with a poll, just to see who's out in the audience. A really big, valuable thing about A2NewTech is just the community and how wide and diverse it is. So we'll just do that real quick. I'm going to launch it right now. Give everybody about 60 seconds, 90 seconds to enter in your information. This might be the fastest we've gone through this poll. I don't think it's purely because we have 23 people, but it's just the sheer speed. We have one holdout. Whoever you are, you have another 20 seconds.
Well, you know, Hein, when you make me a co-host, I can't
respond. Oh, is that you? Okay.
I can only see the results.
All right, so we'll put you under other. How about that, Roger? All right, so then in that case, we have everybody. Then we'll share the results here. Most folks out here are entrepreneurs, so that's really great and awesome. Got one person who's looking to start a venture, so that's cool. Investors, a lot of software developers, and some others. If you didn't fit neatly into this category that we have above, we'd love to kind of, if you don't mind chatting into the chat, like what you would have put if it wasn't other. But as I said, a big part about A2NewTech is, again, this is community and how wide and diverse it is. As I just mentioned to our presenters earlier, like we really have a really great community where we are very supportive of one another and try to help out as best as we can. Another great way to kind of connect with those in the community is through our Slack channel. If you're not already a part of it, here is the link in the chat. It's made in a2.com/Slack. You can go in there, hear about announcements. Heidi, who was a previous presenter from Forum, just announced that they formally got a forum out there in the startup ecosystem. If you're in Ann Arbor, definitely check them out. They're a really cool space. I was there a couple of weeks ago. I was a guest on their podcast and checked out the space, and it's so cool. And yeah, there's a lot of other announcements and people sharing like their launches. So it's a great way to kind of connect with people and support the community. And with that said, I know you guys are all here to hear our presenters, so I'm gonna hand it over to them shortly. But before I do that, I want to quickly thank our sponsors. I have already mentioned one of them, which is Ann Arbor Spark. A2 Geeks is another. Roger Rail is one of our sponsors. And last but not least, the Entrepreneurship Clinic at U of M's Law School. Without them, this wouldn't be happening. And if we were doing this in person, we'd be getting free pizza from them. So there, at the very least, we get that going for us. Okay, let's jump into the meat of things. Unfortunately, we only have 2 presenters tonight. We had 3 scheduled, but Richard wasn't able to present. He'll be available next month. I think he had a legitimate reason. He was closing on his house today. So he doesn't really get to decide when the bank is going to close on that. So it fell on today. So that sucks, but we still have 2 other great presenters sharing tonight. I've actually saw both of them pitch to Optimize at U of M recently. Very excited with what they were doing and thought they would be really great ones to show here and for have the community see what they're doing. Particularly thinking myself, like back when I was in college, I wasn't anywhere near entrepreneurial or thinking about doing the things that they're doing. So it always makes me feel so bad. Things like young folks like them go out there and try to change the world in a positive way. But what we do have tonight is we have Yunsoo from Build a Fair and Akhil from Phonica. And they're each going to have 5 minutes to present. They'll have 5 minutes of Q&A afterwards. During the Q&A, just feel free to type your question into the chat. Yunsoo and Akhil will just read them out and just respond during those 5 minutes. If they don't get to your question, no fret. They'll be able to just chat it back to you. Well, particularly Yunsoo when Akhil is presenting. After that, we'll have community announcements where you can announce anything, whether you're looking for software developer for your job or looking for a career change, whatever it may be. If you have a meetup that you're hosting that you'd like to have attendees join, if you have an announcement, go ahead and think of yours right now. And when you get to the community announcement part, you can type it into the chat. Then we'll have breakout sessions to kind of network and chat with each other and hang out for a little bit. And with that, I am going to spotlight Yunsoo and hand things over to him. And before I do that, I'll just give a quick rundown of who Yunsoo is and what Build a Fair is. Build a Fair is a platform that removes the inefficiencies and inequality in career fairs for all involved parties. So with that said, I'm going to hand things over to you, Yunsoo.
Thanks. Let me share my screen. Okay, I hope that everyone can see the screen.
Yep, looks good to me.
All right, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for coming to our presentation. We're Build a Fair, trying to innovate the way that career fairs are run. So imagine that you're a 3-year-old child going to Disney World for the first time. You're probably super excited to go on Space Mountain, only to soon learn that life's not so easy. You learn that there's a 3-hour wait before you can get on any kind of ride. And unfortunately, that's a sad reality that students have to face when they go to a career fair. There's usually an hour or 2 wait before you can talk to a single recruiter. When we surveyed the students at the University of Michigan, we found out that 65% of the students spend 4 hours or more at the career fair compared to the 2 hours or less that they would spend in an ideal situation. So this inefficiency in career fair doesn't only hurt students, but it also affects recruiters and universities. For students, it's quite obvious. They waste a lot of time standing in line, but you also have to consider that it's done during a school day. So they're missing classes, they're missing a lot of work. As for recruiters, they do not get that quality one-on-one time with the candidates because they're rushed of all the people standing in line and getting ready to talk to them. And for universities, there's a lot of setup involved and the space for career fairs are always congested. So there are a couple of solutions out there that tries to address this inefficiency problems. One of those solutions is Career Fair Plus. Career Fair Plus builds a custom website for career fairs where students can go online and sign up for slots on a first come, first served basis. While the inefficiency problem is mostly resolved, it introduced even worse problems. Mainly, the biggest problem is hogging of different spots. Some students who have access to slots before others ended up taking all the slots that they could lay their hands on, thus preventing other students from taking any of the spots. So right now, there is a trade-off between efficiency and equity in the career fair space. We thought that we could create a solution that captures both equity and efficiency at the same time. And the way that we figured out how to do that is through auctioning. Students will be given a certain number of tokens that they can allocate across multiple company slots. And at the end of the auction phase, if a student has the highest bid for a company, they will be given an interview with that company at that given time slot. And there are multiple benefits to Build a Fair. First, for students, they can now have a strategic selection of slots. If they have a dream company that they would want to talk to, then they can allocate most of their tokens for that company's slot. If they want to go for more opportunities, well, they could take the strategy of splitting their tokens into smaller chunks and distributing them across multiple time slots. As for recruiters, they can now be guaranteed that they're going to be getting the most enthusiastic candidates. And the reason for this is that the candidates that signed up for a time slot are guaranteed to be the ones who bid the highest for that time slot. So we can tell that they have the most interest. So we can imagine that this will reduce overall costs in recruitment. And finally, for universities, there will be reduced setup efforts and more meaningful analytics provided to them. Our solution addresses the problems such as hogging, first come, first serve, and user validation that our competitors fail to address fully in their current solutions. So we have a lot of exciting things planned ahead of us, such as the alpha test in June. And by September, we're hoping to have our beta test. And this is where we need all of your help. We're looking for introductions to people in the education and or people in recruitment space. And if you think that our solution could benefit your business, your work, or your event, please reach out to us and we'll provide a free beta test version of our platform to you for free. If you have any questions or if you'd like to reach us, please email us at buildafair@umich.edu, or you can also find us at buildafair.com. Thank you, and we'll take any questions at this time.
That was great. Thank you so much for sharing Build a Fair with us, Yunsoo. And it looks like, Ben, you put the link in the URL into the chat. Appreciate that. Yeah, so now we'll move into our 5-minute Q&A. Do folks have questions for Yunsoo and the Build a Fair team? I guess my one question is that came to mind was the auctioning aspect. Do you do anything to try to make sure how prevent people from like maybe getting too overly jealous about like putting all their eggs into one basket when they auction towards things, or like is that something that's worth accounting for? Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, so we do have measures that tries to prevent students from spending all of their tokens in one time slot, where our goal is for students to get as many opportunities as they possibly could, and also for companies to meet as many great candidates as they possibly could. So there are measures out there that we implemented to prevent students from using all of their tokens for one time slot and kind of spreading the allocation of slots across students in a more fair manner.
Cool.
Glenn asks, do you have any competitors? Ben or Arshan, do you want to answer this? Oh, you guys are muted.
Yeah, so I can take this. Our major competitor right now is Career Fair Plus. They're at most of the major universities, including the University of Michigan, and they also do the University of Michigan Engineering Career Fair. And the whole idea of being able to sign up online is actually kind of a new thing that they've started since the pandemic began a year ago. And it was at that point that we knew that their solution isn't going to work, and someone else needs to step in.
Another question: if you lose an auction, do the tokens return to you to apply for a different time slot? Yes, it's not a one-time thing. If you do lose your spot for a time slot when you're bidding, then all the tokens will be returned back to you for you to try again for a different time slot. Is there feedback to students on how many tokens are allocated to which companies so they can adjust their tokens accordingly? Yes, that's a big part of what we tried to focus on as we were implementing, to give a transparent feedback to students as they're going through the process. So students can see what the maximum bid is at like any given time. How many tokens do participants get? Do you have no-show policy? So the no-show policy will depend on the event organizer. But in terms of the tokens, it's also dependent on the event organizers as well, on how they're going to distribute the tokens and how many tokens the students will receive. There's another question. Let's see. How do you as a company make money? Arshan?
Yeah, I can take this. So at this point, we're not fully focused on revenue. We're more just we're offering our service for free at this time because we want to kind of build up our platform as reputable, which is when talking to like career fair organizers was a big value add. They need to be assured that the platform is reliable. So at this point, we're just trying to establish ourselves in the career fair space. As we scale up, we are anticipating, scaling the price with the size of the fair, meaning like number of companies attending, and then we plan to rebate on slots unfilled. So that way we can get the best price for our customers.
Can students view the distribution of bids for a specific recruiter or just a max bid? At the moment, we are providing only the max and the min, just because the distribution is not as of a big deal in deciding what to bid in the next, like if you do decide to bid for that recruiter. Another question is, can a student give their spot that they won to a friend? That is something big that we have considered during our designing phase. We didn't want it to be Career Fair Plus or our competitors issue once again, where we have no way to verify this user's information. So we made sure that we cannot, a student cannot give their slots or do anything funny with their with the slots that they won at the end. How long is onboarding for students? Arshan or Ben, do you want to take this? Because
Yeah,
you ran.
yeah, I'll take that one. So we've tried to make and design our user interface to be as easy as possible and to use as few clicks to gain to make their bid. So onboarding isn't going to be that long. We're going to have a short optional tutorial for new students, new users to take, and it'll be like 3 slides because onboarding can be annoying sometimes, and there really isn't too much to the whole process. We think people will understand our platform pretty easily.
Okay.
Yep.
So it looks like we have some other questions, but I think that's about our 5-minute time. But Yunsoo and the rest of the Build the Fair team, thank you guys so much for taking the time to share Build the Fair with us. If you don't mind, again, just real quickly mentioning what your ask is for everybody in the audience.
Yes, so we are looking for introductions to people in the education and or the recruitment space. And if you think that your work, your business, or your event could use our solution and would be benefited by it, please reach out to us and we'll love to work with you in kind of setting up our beta version of our platform with your event. And please feel free, and we would love to reach out and connect with you after this meeting.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you have the opportunities to support the team, please help them with those connections. And with that, we'll move to our next presentation. I think I could. Yep. There you go. Stop sharing. Yep. And Akhil, I'm going to spotlight you. And before I hand things over to Akhil, I just want to really quickly give a summary of what Phonica is. Phonica develops tools to resolve speech disfluencies. So with that, Akhil, I'll hand things over to you.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much for the introduction. And once again, yeah. Thank you all for being here and giving us great feedback for our projects. So yeah, my name is Akhil. I'm a second year undergraduate at the University of Michigan, and I'm the founder of Phonica, a not-for-profit initiative designed to develop technologies to help those with speech and language disorders. So we're a group of students mostly from the University of Michigan, and we're basically involved with creating technologies specifically right now to help those who stutter. So we're currently working on a web application, which I'll get into detail later. Right. So so just to give a gist of the overall problem that we're trying to address, 70 million people worldwide have a stuttering problem or some sort of speech impairment in that sense. However, we believe there are tools available to provide useful feedback for those who stutter. For example, current applications in this field, such as Arai and Speako, they're public speaking apps, and they're designed to help those with a fear of public speaking overcome that fear. And how they work is that they provide a text, like a passage, a text for someone to read. And when they read it, they're able to track, they're able to track audio and visual features. For example, facial expressions, filler words, the amount of ums and likes they say, etc. And then they give feedback in that sense. So back in October, I was trying out these apps, and the reason I was trying them out is I'm actually a person who does stutter, and I tend to stutter in more stressful situations. For example, when talking to a stranger. So when I was trying out these apps to better my fluency, I really didn't get any useful feedback because I didn't stutter in in the context of reading. I always stuttered when talking to other people, for example, going to a restaurant, ordering food, situations like that. So at that point, I wanted to try to leverage my software skills to create an application with state-of-the-art tools to help those who stutter, including myself. So the idea with this kind of application is that I would be able to record myself in any situation and at any time and receive useful feedback on how I did and improve based on that feedback. So once again, sorry. So we're not creating an application to replicate speech therapy. We're not recommending strategies per se to the user. We're providing information and a variety of metrics to the user and allowing the user to come up with the best plan on how to tackle their disfluency based on the information we provide to them. So far, we have developed a prototype of a web application. So web application is mostly divided into two parts. So the first part is the recording phase. So as you can see here, this is an example of our prototype where a user is able to record themselves talking. So here, this user is recording themselves talking. The context might be doing a pitch or something along the lines of that. So what happens is that the user records themselves and then they talk, and then our software is able to process the audio and visual data from their conversation or session. Next, after their session, we provide feedback back to the user in a variety of metrics. So as you can see here, you have, for example, on the number of calls the user made in the past month or last week, the average disfluency time, the longest segment in which they didn't have a disfluency. And additionally, we're able to track specific audio features such as filler words, such as like, etc. And that's plotted on the graph, as you can see here. So how are we able to analyze this audio and visual features? So on the audio side, where we basically process everything through an AWS engine, and that provides a transcript. So we're able to pass that transcript to a variety of algorithms. For example, one algorithm is a filler word detection algorithm, and we're able to provide that data back to the user. So a lot of people who stutter tend to use filler words like so, just to get past their disfluency. So the goal is to be able to reduce the occurrence of filler words, and that's what our software tries to provide. Another facet is facial analysis. For example, some people who stutter tend to have abnormal mouth movements. So we've developed an algorithm that's able to track facial landmarks and detect when that user is making that particular motion, and we're able to relay that information back to the user. So yeah, obviously, back in October, I didn't have any connections or anything. I started the organization by talking with speech language pathologists, seeing if there was a need for this product, and with computer science professors to see if this product was feasible. And through those sessions, I was able to create a team of motivated undergraduate students who are really talented and have really gotten our project to where it is right now. And we've also been helped by a variety of organizations such as Optimize and the Services for Students with Disabilities department. Yeah, and we've received funding from them as well. So our ask per se is basically we're looking for people with experience in software engineering. So currently, our prototype, we've developed the majority of the prototype. We've developed all the parts, but we're having difficulty basically connecting all the parts. And the reason is, at the end of the day, we're still undergraduates, and we really have no real software engineering experience. So if any of you in the audience does have this kind of experience, we would love to work with you to work out inefficiencies and bugs in our code and essentially make our product the best it can be. And furthermore, in terms of web app development, we're looking for UX UI designers who might be able to help us design a better looking product, right, and engage our user more. And finally, so far we've been able to test parts of our product with people who stutter, but we're looking to expand to others with more speech impairment, with other speech and language impairments in the beta testing phase. So if you know anyone in that group, or if you fall in that group, we would love to talk and discuss any possible opportunities with you. Yeah, so yeah, thank you. I know I went over time limit, so thank you for listening to my presentation. And yeah, and you can and our website is, I'll drop it in the chat. Just a minute.
Cool. Yeah, while you do that, I want to thank you for taking the time to sharing Phonica with us. Looks like you sent Phonica to me directly, but
Oh, my bad.
No worries. I just put it out there. But again, thank you for taking the time to share. As someone who grew up with a speech impediment, when I heard your first time at Optimize, like, it really connected with me, and it's great what you're doing to support those who are dealing with this particular challenge. And with that, I'd like to open things up for questions to folks for 5 minutes.
Yes, of course. So currently, we actually do not. Okay, so our revenue model basically exists on a monthly subscription. So users would pay a monthly fee to access our services. However, currently we're trying to make our subscription model as inexpensive as possible. So ideally, we would want our software to be free for everyone. And so the funding from that would come from outside sources, like for people who like our cause and would be willing to fund our project such that our users don't need to pay for our services. Yeah, and just to be clear, once again, it's a not-for-profit initiative. Yeah, one person, Frankie says Peter Thiel should be your spokesperson. I was just wondering why you specifically mentioned Peter Thiel. I know he's one of the biggest startup guys, but. Oh yeah, Ben asks, what front-end framework does the web app use? Yeah, currently we're using React to basically process, to get the audio and video data, and then we pass that onto a backend, which does all the analysis and returns it back to the front end. Why did we not decide to make an app? This is actually a web application. If you mean phone application, we really have no experience with designing a phone application, so we thought it would be best. We thought it would be best to first create a web application and test it out, and then later on we would be able to create a phone application. Oh yeah, oh that's great. Thanks, Frankie. Yeah, I didn't know Peter Thiel is someone who stuttered. So yeah, maybe down the road I'd be able to reach out to him. This first person. Yeah, and thank you, Roger, for sharing your anecdote. Definitely, that's support.
Any other questions for Akhil around Phonica? Going once, going twice. Okay. Well, Akhil, do you mind just quickly repeating again your ask that you have for us today?
Yeah, of course. So overall, we're looking for people with experience in either software engineering or a UX UI design to help us with with making our product the best it can be.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for coming tonight and sharing Phonica with us. Roger mentioned his stutter. I've had my own, so just knowing what you're doing to help those who are dealing with this is near and dear to, at least to my heart. But with that said, we would have had a third presenter tonight, Richard for Booz App, but unfortunately he wasn't able to join us tonight, but he'll be available next month. With that said, if you're interested in pitching or know anybody who's interested in pitching, I've had a couple of folks DM me already asking about it. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to put my email in here. It's just going to be a quick little like questionnaire, basically asking like where you are with your startup. And then from there, like, well, if everything looks good, we'll slot you in into preferably our next session, which is going to be on June 15th. So hope everybody can join us. I mentioned earlier at the beginning the idea of like doing in person. I can't promise that the next one will be. I just want to sort out all the logistics. But we're gonna start figuring that out, and maybe under the July, maybe August one at the latest to have it be in person again if possible. If any of you have done anything in person already and seen things that have worked well and hasn't worked well, you have my email and my Slack. Like, shoot me a message to let me know like what's worked well, so then we can kind of like coordinate this really well. I want to make sure, there is a lot of great things about doing it in person, like that I do miss, but at the same time, I want everybody to be safe and well. So, yeah, just reach out to me, let me know, so we can like coordinate this as best as possible. With that said, it's time for our post-pitch community announcements. So if folks have any announcements that they like to share, I'll give everybody a few minutes to type it into the chat. These things can range from if you're kind of hiring anybody a certain position, looking for collaborators, maybe a co-founder, any kind of meetup that you're hosting. Yeah, so feel free to type in your announcement. And with that, and after the announcements, I'll split everybody up into random breakout rooms. But as folks type in their announcements, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it, and thanks for coming to support our young entrepreneurs in Yunsoo and the rest of the Build a Fair team, as well as Akhil. Again, they're university students. Like, it's crazy to me, like, to think that they have the time and the ability to not only go through school at one of the best universities in the world and like work on these projects. So it's all inspiring. So support them as best as you can, wherever you can. And yeah, looks like we got at least one community announcement. 2 is hosting a Clubhouse room that updates everybody on the China EV and mobility sector. Evan Stone's looking for a UI UX developer with Django and Wagtail experience for a small project. Frankie's looking for a tech co-founder. Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll take all these announcements and I'll post them into the meetup, so we have them for prosperity's sake. All right. All right. So I'll give folks another minute for their announcements if they have any. If not, I'll go ahead and create some breakouts rooms. Cool. All right. Well, thank you again for everybody for coming tonight. Hopefully I'll see you again next month on June 15th. And yeah, we'll talk soon.